Nobody tells you what debt actually is when you're signing up for it. They give you a number and they make it feel like an achievement. Hey, you got approved. Like you won something. You walk out with a little folder and a handshake and this vague sense that you just did what adults do. Then 20 years go by and you do the math and the house costs twice what you paid for it. And somehow that's just normal. That's just Tuesday. Nobody's in jail. There's no investigation. The guy who structured the loan is on a boat somewhere. There's always a boat. The average American is carrying over $100,000 in non-mortgage debt. And I know what people want to say. Personal responsibility. And look, I hear you. I do. But these are the same companies that hired psychologists to figure out exactly where to put the candy in a checkout aisle. They have been studying you your entire life. They understand human behavior better than humans do. And you're going to lecture the candy buyer? Every interest rate, every late fee, every clause in a font that is technically invisible but only barely, that was built by some of the smartest people alive. People who could have done anything. They looked at all their options and they just chose this. They got rich by making sure mathematically that people who start with less will always end with less. Then they bought a boat. Genuinely. Good for them. Now here's something that was definitely not in your high school curriculum. The word riba. It's Arabic, usually translated as interest, which is correct, but it just doesn't cover the entire meaning of it. Calling riba interest is like calling a hostage situation an unscheduled meeting. Riba means increase. The increase coming from lending money and charging more for it because time just passed. That's it. You did nothing. Time happened. Now you want to check? And the Quran says that people who consume riba will rise on Judgment Day like someone driven to madness by the devil himself. Not a warning label. This is not fine print. God looked at one specific financial mechanism out of everything in the world and said that one right there, that will destroy people. The non-Muslim world heard this, nodded, and went back to their credit cards. That was the most expensive nod in human history. Let me show you the actual number because I think you really need to see this. $300,000 house, 30 years, 6% interest. Sounds normal, right? Responsible adult stuff. You pay $647,000. The bank made $347,000 for typing a number into a computer. I took a typing class in the 8th grade, and my teacher never once mentioned this was on the table. And honestly, I'm still not over it. And here's the kicker. The bank didn't even fully have that money when they gave it to you. It's called fractional reserve banking. Completely legal. Been legal so long that if you bring it up at a dinner party, you will get a look from your spouse that has its own weather system. They keep a fraction of your deposit, lend the rest out, and collect interest on your money. Return on something they don't fully own. And Muslims said, yeah, that right there, that is the exact thing we told you not to do. Everyone else said, that's just banking. Then 2008 happened. $19 trillion in household wealth gone in 18 months. Real houses, real retirements, real families. And the people who built the machine got bailouts with your money. Sit with that for a second. Islamic banks had almost zero exposure, not luck, because you literally cannot build a tower of interest-based instruments if you are not allowed to use interest-based instruments. The prohibition wasn't a limitation. It was the fire door. It was the thing keeping the building standing while everyone else came down. The IMF published research on this afterwards. Muslims were not surprised. They've been saying it for 1400 years. Now, I know what you're thinking. You still need a house. You still need a car. You can't just go live in the woods. Some people do. They have podcasts. Their skin looks incredible. It's not for everyone. Islamic finance is a $3.5 trillion industry in over 80 countries. This is not theoretical. This is running right now. Murabbaha. The bank buys what you need and sells it to you at a markup. You both, that's right, you both agree to on day one, full number upfront, no compound interest appearing 10 years later like a bill that somehow became a court date. Musharaka. You and the bank both own the property. You buy their share over time. The bank has real money in the deal. The bank can actually lose. A lender who can lose. I know. Take your time. Ijara. Leasing. Clean, transparent. No meter running in the background while you sleep. You know what you owe because they tell you what you owe. Wild concept, right? Now, some products are being sold as Islamic finance, just regular interest in a different outfit. And the answer is yeah. And Muslim scholars are openly furious about it, which is genuinely the most relatable thing in this entire conversation. Scholars losing their minds over the fine print. Brother, I've been there. But here's the thing that actually gets me. Interest flows up, always has, was designed to. People with less borrow, people with more lend, and every single payment, every minimum payment, every payday loan at 400% annual interest. And yes, that is a real legal number in states you could drive to today. Moves from someone who is struggling into an account belonging to someone who has spent real money on real lawyers, making absolutely sure they never have to struggle. The Fed publishes this data. Bottom half of Americans hold 36% of all debt. Top 1% hold 38% of all financial assets, including the stuff collecting interest on that debt. The people with the least are sending automatic monthly payments to the people with the most, every month, forever, by design, completely legal. While someone on TV tells them the problem is the coffee. Riba isn't a religious rule, it's a machine. And Islam looked at the blueprint for that machine 1400 years before it was built and said just don't. And we built it anyway. And it did exactly what they said it would do. And here we are. Look, I'm not telling you to convert. I'm not telling you this is your fault. I'm just telling you the things you were born into wasn't handed down from the sky. It was built by people with interests who will explain to you very patiently, and this is just how economics works. Very complicated. A lot of moving parts. You probably wouldn't get it. And a 1400-year-old tradition looked at that engine of the whole thing and said this will always hurt the people who can least afford to be hurt. Look, you don't have to follow the prohibition, but you should know what it was prohibiting because it's been in the room your whole life and nobody ever gave you the word for it. Now you have it. Somewhere tonight, an 18-year-old is signing their first student loan, and nobody in that room is going to say anything of this. That's why this exists.